Let me bring in a Democrat who has no problem with a partisan issue, Terry McAuliffe, who may well be playing a role in keeping Trump to one term. Governor, tell me about this view. I mean, tell me the politics. You're a politician as well. Why did Trump wait till today, play his cards to the end, say he couldn't change this policy, denied it was his policy, and then flip late this afternoon? What's it all about?
Well, first, he created the mess, and he thought it was working for him. And he doubled down yesterday. And I think with the pictures coming out and the uproar all over the country, I think he realized that once again he had taken us down the low road. He has done this time and time again. You know, I was hopeful after he got elected that when he took the oath of office, and I served as chairman of the National Governors Association, all the governors, we thought that he would rise to the occasion to be president of the United States, but he hasn't. He has continuously taken the low road, and what he has done in this situation with the children is appalling. Not only in America, but, Chris, all over the world. They are looking at the United States of America, the greatest nation on earth, the beacon of democracy, the beacon of morality. And what he has done is question people's thoughts about how they think about America. And for the people who follow us and for people who do things we don't like around the world, they look to what America is doing now, and I'm afraid of what their behavior will be going forward. This man has taken America in the wrong direction. He is a walking nightmare. He is erratic. He did it in Charlottesville when we had neo-Nazis and alt-right and white supremacists come to Virginia. He had an opportunity to stand up and morally do the right thing. He didn't. He took the low road. He said it was both sides' fault. It wasn't. 32-year-old Heather Heyer, who lost her life that day, she was protesting against hatred. So I think he realized that he had no one left. His wife wasn't with him anymore. People around the country weren't with him. People around the world with him. And he figured he better just cut his losses. But this will be a dark moment in America's history. To put these children in steel cages like internment camps is something people will never forget. And it was Donald J. Trump. It was his policy. He has hurt this country around the globe.
Well, this remain in the minds of people for, we've learned one thing, Governor, that the minute-by-minute changes in public focus is something that Trump has been able to exploit. The change of mind, the change of topic. Will this stay in the minds and hearts of people months from now?
I think this is something that is burned in the minds of Americans. This was something so abhorrent that nobody could actually believe it. And when the tape came out with the children crying for their mother, that is something that people will remember forever. It has hurt America and the prestige and the moral leader that we are. So this is going to be well into the elections. But put the politics aside for a second, Chris. This is about America. And what this man has done to America, what he has done to the G7, to our allies in the EU, to our allies in Canada and into Mexico, he has created chaos in the world. The only person looking back satisfied today is Vladimir Putin, who's got to be sitting back laughing of all the actions he took to disrupt the 2016 election. And he's saying to himself, boy, look what I caused in the United States of America.
You know, I had Elizabeth Warren on yesterday, the senator from Massachusetts, and I had her on for a reason. The reason I'd always want her on is because I think she's one of the nominees, possible nominees of the Democratic Party in 2020, and I think you're a possible nominee. Do you think this is going to make it more likely for people to take the moral plunge against Trump, this incident?
I think it has outraged so many people, and I think the one thing, as you saw today, the polls, the Pew Research came out today, voter interest is up the highest level we have had in 20 years. I think what you're going to see, Chris, is a huge turnout in the midterms as they go in and vote for the House and the Senate in these 36 governors' races. It's coming against Donald Trump. We have had it with his antics. We have had it with him getting rid of all of America's allies around the globe. We want a president, literally, who unifies people, who works together. You can work on both sides for the common good of jobs, on infrastructure. Look what he's done to health care. Premiums are up all over the country. He's tried to roll back the ACA. People are feeling that at home. They're paying higher premiums today. They're stuck in traffic. Infrastructure isn't working. President Trump has taken America down the wrong road, and I do think you're going to see a lot of people step up to the plate, rightfully so, and they should.
Trump's strongest supporters have shown a degree of callousness that threatens to alienate moderates in their own party. Just last night, Trump's former campaign chairman mocked a Democratic strategist for showing concern for a separated 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome. Let's watch this scene.
I mean, look, I read today about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage. I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old with Down syndrome being taken from her mother?
What I said is you can pick anything you want, that, but the bottom line is very clear.
How dare you?
When you cross the border illegally.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, what do you make of that? This, what's the right word? Callousness of the Republicans defending the president to the point of making fun of a kid with Down syndrome who's been separated from his parents. I mean, that's a colossal tragedy to treat a kid who has, challenges to begin with, and then separate him from the parents he needs.
No, there's no doubt it was a cruel and horrifying policy, and it didn't work. The good news is, in all of this, that the American people rose up and expressed themselves. Laura Bush was clear and eloquent. All of the former first ladies and the current first lady, business leaders, faith leaders, and millions of Americans spoke up. So the system really did work today or this week. And that's a good lesson, I hope.
Well, I love the fact that you are out there. I hope you run for office again, because we've heard too many outspoken Republicans are on their way out the door. I like Republicans that are still running for office having to say something about Trump.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.